everybody, Lydia here, and today we're going to talk about inside angles, as we call them. We call these angles, inside corners, kind of whatever you call them in your area. But we're going to go over some tips for kind of getting those three-way corners in there nice, and just kind of hand applying some tape. So I have my paper tape here. It's completely dry. It's not wet. You can see there's an indented side and then the crease side. And this is really handy for angles because you can pre-crease or pre-fold your tape. So it'll fit in your angle a lot nicer. And then this sharp corner right here is going to go into our angle. So first things first, I'm going to have some mud here. This is taping mud. It's all mixed up. I am using a 6. I just use a 6 all the time. You can use a smaller knife. You can use a 4 or 3, kind of whatever you want. So I'm going to load up my knife. And I'm going to slide this top angle here. Make sure I have adequate mud coverage. And then I'm just going to take the corner of my mud here and just kind of do the same thing again. And I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit more right there because I dug into it a little bit. And I want to make sure I don't want any blisters with my angles because that is not a fun thing to fix. And then I'm going to take my tape. And then I have my cut edge here, and I'm going to set it right up against in that angle right there. So it's really important when you're doing angles that you don't want them to be super short like that, because then you won't have any tape in the angle and it'll crack out. But then you also don't want to have it super long and have it be all jammed up and folded up in there like that, because then you're not going to be able to get your tape to line nicely over the other piece of tape. So it's really important that you have it just about there, because we're going to have our other piece now that's going to come over the top, and then it's going to fit in that corner, and then the piece that comes down will come down and over both of those pieces. So it's really, really important you're not having it all jammed and like gummed up in there. You can also take your knife, apply some pressure, get it to sit in there nicely. That's why pre-fill is really important, because if those are big gappy angles and you're doing this, it's going to go right into that big gap. And taping is really important with angles because you're setting the stage for all of your next coats. So what can happen is you can, be taping or be wiping, and if you're not, kind of working with it or pushing it in, you can actually cause rounding out in your angles. So you see that right there? That's all round. So when I go to coat it, like let's say I'm coating that, I'm really not going to be able to pull a nice line because it's all rounded out, and then I'm going to have more and more built up and then a rounder and rounder corner. So something, that can always tell a professional apart from, an amateur or somebody that doesn't know what they're doing is angles. If they're not crisp, they're not clean, and they're not straight, it's a big show. Like you can tell that somebody doesn't know what they're doing. So I'm going to go in, and I'm wiping out a lot of mud. I do not want these built up. I do not want too much mud left in there. I don't want wrinkles. Come down. Make sure that's nice and tight. And something that can happen too when you're doing your angles, if you go too hard, it can actually change it a little bit, and you can pull up and see how that just sunk in, because I pre-filled that earlier and it's not all the way dry. What you can do is just pull it out and then just not wipe that spot as hard. But if you pull too hard or you're pulling a little too much, you can actually kind of move the tape down a little bit. So it definitely does take a little bit of a finesse in some of these corners. And then again, just wipe hard. I really don't want any extra mud in there. Okay. It's a little tiny wrinkly right there, but it's just because I jammed it up in there. Now it'll be fine too, because these are going to get coated. So think about that too. This is just like your tape coat. So we want it to be tight, flat, And then when we build up on the next coat and the next coat, then that's when we start floating out that tape, and then, you know, we're leaving more mud. And I don't coat these right after I tape them. They will dry completely before getting coated.